Hey guys, just a quick update on kind of what's been going on lately and how everything's going with like school and support and that kind of thing. Jade has finally had his learning needs assessment, which he should have had in January, but obviously with lockdown that was put back and postponed until April. The feedback I've had so far is pretty positive. I've only had feedback from the Senko, so they put their interest on things. They want it to sound better than it is, maybe. I don't know. I will see what happens obviously when I get the full report, but so far so my biggest concern was what it would show in terms of long term ability to learn and those kind of things. So whether it was heading in the direction of a learning disability diagnosis, and I do feel bad to even say those words because we just don't know. We didn't know. The Senko said the same when I said to the the fact that it came back with his underlying ability to learn as being average was amazing. Like I was expecting it to be lower. So the actual underlying ability to learn, which I suppose is like the IQ, essentially, like your your intelligence and your ability to learn, is fantastic. The biggest things that it picked up from what I've heard so far, which I sat down with the Senko for like an hour and she went through a fair bit of what the assessor had said to her. So the main things that they picked up on were fine and gross motor, which obviously I already knew. They want to take the focus away from writing, whereas school very much push him to write, which he finds obviously very difficult, quite distressing. They want to take the focus back because they don't feel like he's really ready to be writing right now. This was 2 weeks ago and he's still writing every day at school. The Senko tells me that they're going to back off things, they're not going to push him so hard on things. I don't think anything's really changed. Obviously we've not had the actual report yet, so how much of the teachers have heard, I don't know. So yeah, finding gross motor, sorry if you can hear the dog snoring or purring, whatever he's doing. Visual perception, which I didn't really know a lot about. I've had to do a lot of Googling. Obviously I think that pretty much comes under his autism, that he physically sees things differently, but he also obviously perceives the world differently anyway because he's autistic. So yeah, the way he interprets things, the way he understands things, it can, well, she said, the Senko said it can literally be as simple as if you've got a line of letters and it's like A, 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 B, A, 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 like loads of A's and then the odd B scattered in, how easily he could pick out the difference between an A and a B, or like spot the difference pictures, whether he'd be able to do things like that. But yeah, he just sees the world in a completely different way. So to me, that's a huge thing that obviously he won't necessarily learn in the same ways to other children because he doesn't physically see things or understand things in the same way to other children. He picked up quite a lot of sensory stuff, which I was obviously surprised at. When he was struggling, they said he was very cooperative. He was very eager to do the tasks because a lot of it, the guy kind of observed him for a couple of hours, I think, in the morning, and then the rest of the school day. So a fair chunk of the day, he was doing tasks, games, all those kind of things to kind of get to see how he can learn and those kind of things. So yeah, a lot of sensory stuff. What else? I can't remember what else she said. There was a lot more. So we were talking for like a full hour. But yeah, his overall like eagerness to learn and all those kind of things is really, really good. And the main things, finding gross motor and the visual perception. The dog's now like smacking into me. So they're the main things that will come out in the report. But obviously it'll be a massive report. A lot of information in there. School did say, obviously he had his autism diagnosis back last September, and at that point, I mean, I've been saying since he started at the beginning of reception, before he was even in reception, EHCP, and school are like, I don't think it's the right time. They've never once said this child will not need an EHCP. This is what is ridiculous. They've never said that. They couldn't really say that. It's not the right time, blah blah blah. We need to do this, we need to do that first. We need to gather more evidence. So yeah, back when I got his diagnosis, and in his diagnosis report, it said he needs an EHCP. It said he needs, I think she put cognitive development assessment, which would have been slightly different to what he has. This learning needs one is slightly different to that. I think that was more going down towards the kind of like learning disability side of things, whereas this is more focusing on strengths as well, and like his ability to learn and ways that he can learn and that kind of thing. But yeah, so school had said, oh, once we've got this report, so this one that's coming now, then we'll look at doing his EHCP. And then she sat me down, we had this chat about the report, which we've not yet got. And she was like, oh, well, it's all so positive, it's all great, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes, oh, but I still don't feel like it's the right time to do his EHCP. And like, there's a surprise. Like, well, when is ever going to be the right time? And then she literally said the words which I was quite taken aback by. An EHCP will stay with him till he's 25. Well, that's fantastic. He'll get support all the way through until he's an adult. What more could I possibly want? His needs might change by then. What would you want him labelled? Labelled isn't even a word that should be used anymore. Like, he has an autism diagnosis. Like, if there's ever a label, an autism diagnosis is more of a label than an EHCP, which is going to help him get educational support. And yeah, that baffled me. So once the report comes, I've got no choice. Like, I've been in this position before where we're back in October, so just after his autism diagnosis, I'd literally written up all the paperwork, filled in all the forms, ready to send off for parental request for EHCP, and then school pretty much begged me not to. And I've always felt as though it's easier to have them on side, but at this point, just like, we can't put it off forever. Year 2 is around the corner. You know, it's only going to get harder, really. I mean, he doesn't do work that's... What's the nicest way to put it? There aren't any other children in the class that do the same work that Jaden does. That's probably the nicest way to put it. So his work is by far different to the work that the other children do. Obviously, his writing ability. And then also the mental health side of it, his confidence, all those kind of things, because he's only told me recently, like, obviously I always know that he punches himself in the head at home when he has meltdowns and things like that, but I wasn't aware that he does that at school, and school have never told me that. He's told me that. Ella's unverified, yes, he does. If he's frustrated, like when they're pushing him hard with things or when they're trying to get him to work independently, if they tell him he's got something wrong, which obviously they need to be very careful how they kind of word that or redirect him when he's struggling, that he will sit in the classroom and punch himself in the head. That's not okay. Like, school can't sit there and be like, he's okay, he's coping, he's fine, if he's sat in a classroom punching himself in the head. So yeah, once I've got that report, I've kind of digested everything that's in it. I'm just going to do the parental request. Those you don't know, like, so the EHCP procedures, they have, I get this right, I think it's 6 weeks to make a decision on whether or not they will come out and do an assessment. The chances are they might say no. Like, if they do, then you do, is it mandatory? I don't know if it's mandatory reconsideration is DLA. It might be called something else, but you contest it and say, no, I'm not happy with that decision. This happened to my friend recently. To start with, they weren't even going to come out and do an assessment on her child, and then 3 months down the line, 4 months down the line, she's got her EHCP. So it's ridiculous that at one point they wouldn't even come out to do an assessment, and then you know, it gets sorted. If it doesn't get sorted, you know, potentially it could take months, it could take a year. We could wait to tribunal. It could get to that point like it did originally with his DLA. Either way, he's going to get an EHCP, and in my head, the sooner you start that, the better, because if it's going to be a long process, why put it off? So yeah, that's Jade. He's plodding along in school. He's reasonably, I wouldn't say he's happy, but he says he likes maths at the minute, which is really good. So they are, as ever, complete opposites. He enjoys maths, Ella hates maths. She's always hated maths. She really struggles with maths. Ella, the last 6-8 months, when was last September? 8 months ago. Her anxiety and all those kind of things, and there's so much coming up in Ella that I really, really worry about. School, they acknowledged her anxiety to a point, but they, like most things, kind of not dismiss it, but they say, oh, well, she struggles coming in the mornings, because they can't deny that because I'm physically there when she's crying her eyes out and refusing to go through the door. Then they'll say, well, she's fine through the day. I'm like, well, if she was fine through the day, she wouldn't be so anxious to go in the first place, because if she was happy in the classroom, happy with what she was doing, then she wouldn't get so distressed at the idea of going in. There's definitely a transition issue, because it's just expected now. Whoever, like, there's 2 teachers and there's a teaching assistant, and it's like one of the 3 that lets them in the mornings, and she doesn't even ask anymore. Like this morning, she was clinging to me, a bit upset, and the teacher just said, you go to the toilet, because that's her I think it's just a transition thing, because obviously she goes to the toilet before we leave the house. It's a 5-minute walk to school, but then once she gets to school, it's into the toilet before she can go into the classroom. So I think it's like a transition, that she needs that kind of couple of minutes to get her head around the fact that she's going in. And then I think it's eased a little at the moment, but she was having severe toilet anxiety, where she was going to the toilet up to 12 times during a school day, which is 6 hours. So that's like every 30 minutes. And it's a difficult balance, because you can't just start saying, no, you can't go. I think they did start saying to her at one point then that she needed to wait as long as she could, or she needed to be sure that she definitely needed to go. And one of the teachers did say that she, if she's enjoying a task, so like if they're doing art or PE or something that she enjoys, it doesn't really happen. It's when she's kind of struggling with her work slightly. So there's definitely, quite a concern with her anxiety and that kind of thing, and the odd sensory thing as well. I'm kind of like, are we going to go through this all over again? Then we had parents' evening last night, which was a video call, because you're not allowed in the school. It's a bit ridiculous. When I saw the Senko the other week, I had to literally sit outside, so lucky it was a nice day. But parents' evening is just no, video call only. I was a bit disappointed with it. Not in terms of anything the children are doing, but in terms of the teachers' attitudes, to the point where, like, it's one of those days where I was like, should I be looking at other schools? I almost feel as though they don't, not understanding my child's needs. I can forgive, because I can support you, I can help you, I can tell you how to support my child, we can look for ways to support my child. But when they're just quite dismissive of the child's needs, that bothers me. So with both children, but we started with Ella, and obviously her anxiety and her confidence are my biggest concerns. And she's so eager to please, and she really wants, she wants the teachers to be happy with her, and she wants to do the work properly and all those kind of things, but she really sometimes struggles with things. And she said it about both of them, but she basically said, if there's, or they both work better in very small groups or one-to-one, but if there's instructions given to the entire class, the teacher doesn't like the fact that both of them often then say, what do I have to do, as if they've not been listening. Now, to me, it's that they don't understand. And I've talked to her about this before, and she said, but they tell me off if I ask. And I said, well, you can't get told off for not understanding what you have to do. And the way the teacher said it to me last night was almost like, well, they shouldn't be asking straight after they've been told what to do. But if they've not understood the instruction, they can't just sit there for the hour and not know what to do. So I think that's one thing Ella does really worry about, because she'll often have to ask for things to be re-explained, but it's almost like they need to be reworded to a way that she does understand, rather than just repeating what you've already said that she wasn't listening to when she was trying to but didn't understand. And the same with Jaden. It was almost like she was like, oh, well, he's so reliant on having somebody there and to tell him, or to repeat it to him, that if it's in a bigger group thing, like him holding his attention and that kind of thing is quite difficult for him anyway, because he does unintentionally get distracted, and he'll start thinking about his cars, or like he'll start thinking about something else. So again, I was like, I think that's just part and parcel of his autism. Like if he needs something re-explaining to him, then it just needs to be done. Like, it's not, you can't blame him for that. Ella's writing, she was quite, not negative about, but it was quite, well, I found it quite negative, that kind of like Ella, and obviously it doesn't have, the two teachers have two completely different ways of doing things. So this teacher would like one well-constructed sentence rather than a full page of scrawl. Like, does that make sense? So like, whereas Ella might put down like 5 sentences, but they've got a capital letter missing, a full stop missing, not spelt right or anything like that, she would rather have one well-constructed sentence. But I think your brain, how your brain works. I'm sure I was the same at that age, that like, if my brain was going at 100 miles an hour and I wanted to get it down on paper, then I would just like get it down on paper, and so long as it's legible and the teacher can understand what's there, then if that's how her brain works, then that's how her brain works. That's how I see it. That if she's, but Ella's kind of thing at the moment is that she she wants easier work. She comprehends, or like she understands the fact that Jaden's work is different to hers, and she'll just constantly say, well, why can't I just do the easy work like Jaden does? And sometimes I have to shh her because she'll say, well, Jaden doesn't even write properly, Jaden doesn't do this, Jaden doesn't have to do that. I'm like, Jaden's aware of that, but he doesn't need you to like remind him every 2 seconds. I did mention that to the teacher, and she just sort of said, which I get, like, obviously they give Ella work that they think that she's capable of, but Ella doesn't feel as though she's capable of it, then it's a difficult balance, isn't it? That she feels like she needs more support than she gets. I think because she's quite shy, it's difficult for her to always get the support that she needs. And then similar kind of feedback with Jaden. Like, to me, it just sounds like they need more support than they're getting. Like, I get that some of it is confidence, and sometimes they can do things as though they almost want that. They want to be kind of reassured that they're doing it right before they've done it, almost, rather than doing it and it be wrong. If that makes sense. But yeah, I just feel like they both need more support that they're getting at the moment. And there was no kind of acknowledgement of, obviously Jaden has the needs that he has and that kind of thing, and it was almost just like he needs to try harder to concentrate and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, what if he can't physically do that? He can't be told off for something that he finds that difficult, and that's part of his diagnosis. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer. But yeah, obviously, hopefully the outcome of his ehcp will be that he has somebody with him the majority, if not all of the time. Whereas at the minute there is a class TA in the mornings, there's a teacher and nobody else in the afternoon. So it's very difficult to get that kind of attention that Jaden needs, and also the rest of the class, Ella and everyone else, get attention that they need as well. So I don't know, I'm just having one of those days where I was like, looking at other schools might be an option. But then I looked back at Cradley, and it's still got the headmistress that I fell out with last time. So it won't be Cradley. And I don't really know much about any of the other schools in Malvern, but I just feel like they don't try to understand his needs, which is worrying. If they were trying but they didn't quite get it, then that would be okay. But if they're just, I don't know, not even trying to understand his needs, then that's obviously more concerning. But yeah, I'll probably calm down in a few days and hedge her over. But the ehcp definitely going ahead, and I feel like Ella needs more support that she's getting, so that's something I'm going to have to keep nagging on at them about as well. So far, the Senko's attitude is just that she doesn't have Sen, therefore it's down to the teachers and not her, but we shall see.